All right. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Never Stop Healing podcast. This is your host of the day, Cade Archibald, and I am really excited to be here to hang out. And we got a really cool topic we're going to be diving into today. Hanging out with the one and only creator and founder of East West Health, Go Wellness, created the Accelerate Wellness programs, as well as multi-book author. So if you haven't grabbed one of his books, you got to. So most recently, Never Stop Healing. Along with that, there's Your Healthy Self, Your Health Transformation, Brain Rejuvenation, even the Stem Cell Breakthrough. And so very, very prolific author and just a really amazing guy. So myself and Regan Archibald are going to be diving into some really cool stuff today. Before we dive into that, want to just do a little recap on the Health Accelerator challenges that we did last night. If you are not a part of that community, I challenge you, reach out to either, you can call our office, you can shoot me an email, Cade at ACU, that's acueastwest.com. And we can get you routed there, or go to acueastwest.com/hack. That's HAC. So get registered and be a part of that community and be a part of our Accelerate Wellness program community. And so just seeing amazing lives change there. So what we discussed last night, I had to hop off a little bit early. So those of you that were there, sorry about that. I had to pick up my son from lacrosse practice. We had a carpool issue, so had to hurry and run out there so he wasn't sitting on the sidewalk sobbing because no one picked him up. We've maybe some of us have experienced that.
I have as a kid. Mom, my most traumatic experience as a kid was mom being late from soccer practice.
Yeah, she rolled up with cops on her, right?
Yeah, one of the times she rolled up, there's 3 cops chasing her. And I was there just sobbing because all these kidnappings were occurring in Idaho. I don't even know if it was in Idaho, but my mom and dad were always like, you got to be careful for kidnappers. And so I'm looking at everyone like they're a kidnapper and I'm all alone and it's getting dark. And it was, so I'm glad you picked up Jace. It was very important.
Yeah, didn't want that happening. But yeah, the challenges we covered. So yesterday's topic, really fascinating. Regan went over essentialism and removing non-essentials. So what's really serving you in life and what's bringing you happiness. That's what you want to move towards and get away from and just get rid of all the non-essentials that are crowding up your time and your life and your headspace. So love that topic and that whole thing. So that's the challenge. And then we're still doing the physical challenges. So something that you want to be really good at the age of 100, whether you're 99 years old right now or you're 20 years old, think about that and really imagine yourself at 100 years old being really good at something, and then figure out what you need to do to make that happen. So start working on some physical challenges. So, awesome challenges, awesome topics. And we're going to be diving into a completely different topic today in the podcast. So excited about that. Regan, how's it going today? That was a long-winded awesome intro.
It's all right. It was a great intro. One of the best ever, Cade. Tears are streaming down our face. We're so excited for today. So But today we're going to be talking about rhythms and cycles. And so I really appreciate everyone who was on last night. Man, we covered some incredible things. And for everyone in the community, I just want to thank you. For those of you who watch our YouTube channel, listen to the podcast, and especially those of you who are live with us right now. I just want to express my appreciation to you. And I hope today it will help things flow for both men and women. Some of you dudes out there might might kind of get bored with this subject, but you really shouldn't if you have any relationships with females in your life, whether that's your mom, your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, whoever it might be, a coworker, people you interact with every day. Because as we know, men and women are wired different, and there's this cycle of life that is so powerful. And the cycle of life in Chinese medicine, we say the microcosm is the macrocosm. And so we are the microcosm and we're connected to the macrocosm. And what that means is that we've got this rhythm and this pulsation in our bodies and in our biology that directly correlates to the pulses in the planet. And so if you think about the lunar cycle, for example, what's interesting about that is that's the female menstrual cycle. You think of the circadian rhythms, and we typically think in this, sun up, sun down, 24-hour time period. And, that circadian rhythm we've talked a lot about, but one of the additional rhythms that we're going to be introducing today is the infradian rhythms. And so this is going to be a critical component of balancing hormones, no matter what age you are. If you're perimenopausal, postmenopausal, premenopausal, it still applies. And especially if you are, in fertility phases and you're looking to conceive. The infertility rates are astonishing right now, and if they continue on the trajectory we are, we will have a massive population shortage, because even with the most advanced techniques with IVF, we still, there's still problems. So I've had patients who've gone through 3-4 sessions of IVF and still not been able to carry a baby. And so really, I think it goes back to our roots in, some of the ancient traditions of getting your body really grounded with rhythms and finding out what works for you. And so I'm going to be sharing with you ladies what the infradian rhythm is. And then we're going to be talking about how all of the hormonal cycles relate to the thyroid. And so let's jump in. That's what we're talking about today. And I guess if you guys don't like it, you can't. We're already on the train already left. So, but Cade, is that going to work for you? I mean, I know you're kind of a burly masculine dude, but are you interested in learning about the rhythms and the cycles?
Absolutely. I think the more I can understand that, the more compassion and better understanding it is for everyone. So yes, especially in my household.
Sierra is going to appreciate this. So I'll share my screen. This is actually for Cade. We got to save his relationship now.
Yes. Need help with this, please.
Okay, so here we go. So this is a lot of this information. There's a few different authors on this, but there's a book called In the Flow, and actually it was Amber who shared a podcast with me on this that really opened my eyes. Our sister Amber, and so the author of this is Alyssa Vitti. And we're going to be talking about infradian rhythms and syncing up your cycle. So I titled this, How Women Can Easily Increase Life Energy and Enjoyment by Following Infradian Cycles. So if you want to increase energy and increase enjoyment, then you're going to want to listen up to this and share it with people. So how many of you feel like there aren't enough hours in the day? My anxiety is through the roof. How many of you feel like that? Sometimes it's hard to stay focused. I'm overwhelmed by my schedule. I feel like I'm shortchanging my kids, my grandkids, or my spouse. I feel frazzled. So one of the reasons why these feelings come up is not always because you're a bad person, or you haven't used your calendar properly, or you're not planning your day, or there's too much chaos in the world. If you take a step back and let's just look at biology, because one of the beautiful things about understanding biology is we start to understand our psychology. Bruce Lipton, who's written a book called The Biology of Belief, has some very interesting studies on how the environment impacts stem cell proliferations, and stem cells actually take on the expression the environment molds them into. And so what we don't realize, and especially as women, because a lot of our society is based on this kind of a masculine, it's been a patriarchal society for a long time, and now we're bringing in brand new thinking processes and societal structures. But we forget that we've got to honor the biology. And so part of biology includes hormones. And hormones are very interesting because they're communication networks in your body, and they're long-term communication. Peptides are they can behave like hormones, where they can dock on receptor sites, and then you get this nice even communication. Hormones, too, need to be metabolized. They need to be carried by proteins. There's this entire influx of hormones that happen at different times of the month. And we're going to be talking about how you can maximize the hormonal expression with your lifestyle and your choices, and the foods you eat, the exercises you do at different times of the month. So let's talk about where you are in your cycle. So if you think about the cycle, there's a proliferative phase. So remember, the cycle is all there. Your reproductive system is just like it sounds. It's there for reproduction. So the incredible thing that happens in the female body, and I just think it's magical. I love seeing pregnant women. It's always hard for me not to come and say, can I feel your belly? I want to listen to the baby. And it's just so magical to see what the body can do. And so I know a lot of you amazing people on right now have had babies. And so if you go back to when you were pregnant, it's a very magical time of life. And yeah, if you're like, well, you didn't have the morning sickness, Regan. And so I know there's a lot of complications, and it's not comfortable, especially when I see the 8-month pregnant lady waddling into the clinic, or the mother who wants labor induction. I used to work with the midwives a lot. We still do in the clinic, but they would send all their mothers who needed some labor induction. They'd send them over, or if they had a breech baby, I would be doing moxibustion on bladder 67 and get the baby to turn. And now we work with a lot of fertility patients, and it's really amazing to see those fertility patients. We get them on like Kispectin. We also use Gonadorelin, and then maximize the growth hormone with some of the growth hormone peptides and Chinese herbs. And we see conception, even though they've tried so many different things. But my favorite is when they bring the baby in. Cade, do you remember Carson? I don't know if you remember the story, but our cousin Carson, his wife came in for fertility, and Kristen did, and I came to a family dinner. This was like 10 years ago or something, maybe 15 years ago, and I walked into a family dinner, and Kristen said, "Regan, you got me pregnant." Everybody looks at me with an open jaw. Like, what? I'm like, no, not like that. So, yeah, pretty. Yeah.
So watch out how you word that.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of people pregnant, but not the way you think. So, and Anita says pregnancy helps you swim. I could imagine you could float really nicely.
Awesome. You swim all 9 months.
Yeah. So the proliferative phase is when you're like building up reserves, and the lining, you're creating an environment where the egg and sperm, where conception can happen, and you can start to get this proliferation. And that happens, in the follicular phase and the ovulatory phase. And then the luteal phase hits in, and that's the secretory phase. And the menstrual phase obviously is when the lining sloughs off and conception didn't happen, and you start the cycle over again. So if you think about when the cycle starts, there's different arguments about when day one is. We're just going to say that day one is when the menstrual cycle starts, and you have about 6 days in the menses phase. And then, days 1 through 6, and then day 7 through 12, that's the follicular phase. 13 through 15, you've got about 3 days of ovulation. And that's, when you'll see a spike in your basal body temperature. You're going to just feel a little more alive. And that's a really magical time of the month for females. And then the luteal phase is day 16 through 28. And that's the longest phase. So So think about where you're at in your cycle. If you're not menstruating, it's not a problem. Still, you're still going to want to listen to this, because this is really critical in balancing progesterone, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and follicular stimulating hormone. And we're going to talk about how this looks. So there's certain nutrition. I'm not going to cover a lot on nutrition because it's so custom to each person. I'll cover it more in general then instead of just going deep into it. And so you'll see as we go through each phase, there's some nutritional things. So your follicular phase, we're going to start there. It's kind of an interesting phase because this is the ideal time. This is a preparation phase in your body. Now, remember, the follicular phase comes right after menses, right after your menstrual cycle is done. So let's say, you're finished with your period and now the follicular phase kicks in. And this is an ideal time for calorie restriction, intermittent fasting. Ideally, you're eating more in the menstrual cycle, and we'll dive into that. You've got estrogen on the rise for 7 to 10 days. During the follicular phase, appetite suppressed. You're not as hungry. And so your body can easily handle a reduction in calories. And so this is the only phase, ideally, you've got about 2 weeks of the month where it's great for you to practice like time restricted eating. This is a great time to do a cleanse, a fast. I see women do it during the wrong time of year, like during the menstrual phase, and they end up super depleted. So Cade, you probably have seen that when we have patients that come in and they're like, man, I am never doing that cleanse again. I felt like crap, but some of that is because of this fact right here.
Yeah. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So look at your calendar now, and hopefully as we go through this, you guys can actually start marking your calendar and say, okay, where am I at? The beautiful time about this follicular phase is it's when you can get the best work done, when you're being creative, your brainstorming, your initiative is high. You can prepare, you can plan. This is where your research is at its height. This is where you can be curious, you can explore, interview people, take courses, gather resources, chart your strategy. And it's also where you really want to set your intentions for the week, month, or year ahead. You can clarify your vision and get new projects off the ground, and then start thinking about what you want to accomplish. So this is a great time. I've got, Dr. Frogley, his wife plans all of their trips, and they travel a lot, Scott and Julie. And so this is a great time, Julie, if you're listening to this, which you might be, this is a great time to plan those trips and think about the future. And it's just a phenomenal thing. The female brain, if you guys haven't noticed, it's incredibly dynamic. And us simple-minded males with kind of big foreheads, Neanderthals, some of us, we want everything to be like, okay, from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, we're in focus every single day. And then because men are a lot more on that circadian rhythm, the 24-hour cycle. But last time I checked, the human race can exist with just one man and a lot of females. So the females are definitely got the leg up. And if you can learn how to use your brain and really work in your flow state, you're going to have just an incredible advantage. Not that you're trying to compete against anyone or anything, but if you want to work within your best areas, the first 2 weeks, that follicular phase is really powerful for flow state. So flow state's when you're right in that sweet spot, when there's enough challenge. If there's too much challenge, we go into stress, right? But then it also takes an equal level of skill so that you're not bored. And so that's the flow states where you have better focus, more fun, and more creativity in anything you're doing. So how many of you have noticed this in your follicular phase, that it puts you in this nice little flow state? And so maybe, chime in if it's been helpful, because I think if we can all find our flow state, you guys will find that life is pretty amazing. So the next phase is the ovulatory phase, and this is the opening up phase. And as you know, this is when conception happens. So estrogen's at its highest point. There's a peak for 3 to 4 days. And this is when it's a really good time to eat vegetables that metabolize the hormones. So some of you, and especially if you're postmenopausal, it's really important to look at your estrogens, but constantly there's this marker in your gut called beta glucuronidase. And that is responsible, that enzyme is responsible for breaking down estrogens. But postmenopausally, estrogens can be at its peak and stay up there because of cortisol secretion. And so cortisol and estrogen are working hand in hand to try to keep things balanced, because now your uterus and your ovaries are not producing the same levels of estrogen. But if you have healthy adrenal glands, they kick in. But you want to make sure they're being metabolized. So eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables. This is also, if you're postmenopausal, taking DIM is really important, and eating a lot of cooked cruciferous vegetables. This is where we say, 1 to 2 pounds of cooked vegetables a day is really critical, and especially during this ovulatory phase, so that you can metabolize these estrogens and actually utilize those. Because if they're not being metabolized, then what happens is you can start gaining fat, and estrogens actually get stored in fatty tissue. And those fat cells work as an endocrine system in and of itself. And so that's one of the reasons why you can put on more weight postmenopausally. And you'll say, I just look at food and I put on weight. Well, a big reason is because you're not metabolizing estrogens. And you say, okay, why am I not metabolizing that? Well, there's 2 main reasons. One is in the gut. You don't have the beta glucuronidase balance and the bacterial balance to unconjugate these hormones and excrete them. But the biggest one that I see is in liver imbalances. So working on the liver, and this is where tesamorelin can be a really powerful hormone postmenopausally. And I try to do some type of growth hormone secretagogue at least 1 cycle every 3 months. So that can be CJC1295 with ipamorelin, that can be tesamorelin. These peptides help regenerate the liver, and then using some of the cell core detoxification binders and DIM can keep your liver pristine. And obviously the lifestyle things that we talk about, watching your sugar consumption, making sure you're getting plenty of protein in, lots of the vegetables that we talked about, and then exercise every day. Phenomenal things. And so this estrogen stage in the ovulation, it's a great time to eat leaner meats like chicken, turkey, and white fish. So some of the things you can do, estrogen phases. So during ovulation, Cade, if you think about this is from a biological perspective, it's interesting because if you look at any behaviors of any mammal, like this is when the females get a lot more social and they want to collaborate, they want to communicate, express ideas. And so this is a really important time to have some conversations, plan a trip with Sierra, do some super fun things, have romantic nights. Obviously, that's she's going to be a lot more in the mood for some intimacy during this time. Pheromones are going to be on high alert, so you're going to be triggered as well. So there's going to be this is a good time for fun. And it's also a great time to, when I watch Jess's cycle, I love having people over all the time. And she's a little more like, now we got to manage it. And you know how it goes. So, but this is a good time where I'm like, hey, we should have a party. And she's like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Nice. You're pretty brilliant. So you're just watching that being like, okay, this is the best time to plan this, do this. That's pretty brilliant. I like it. Yeah. So Sierra just got home and she's actually in the other room. She just texted me and said, what is Regan talking about?
Tell her I'm talking all about her. Sierra, we're giving Cade a front row seat to your cycles so that he can really be an observer and know when to do what. So
yes.
So and by the way, it's always a learning experience for us dudes. And so you guys are probably like, why? Regan has no authority to be talking about this stuff. I absolutely don't, besides the fact that I want to learn how my wife functions better. And so hopefully as we do this, it's helpful for you guys too.
It's a good learning experience for everyone. So I know one thing that I hear a lot about. Sometimes Sierra has this problem, but what is the typical cause with headaches or migraines during the cycle?
So a lot of times when the estrogen peaks during ovulation, that's when migraines can be triggered. It just depends. Or when there's a change in hormonal cycle, but usually it's that estrogen not being metabolized. So it goes back to the beta glucuronidase in the liver. And so that can cause some neural inflammation, or if you can also have this, kind of an inflammatory response because your brain needs more estrogen, or the brain has too much estrogen. So either a deficiency or an excess can be the cause of it. And so without Sierra's permission, we won't pull up her labs and go through all the details on that.
Well, I'm sure there's other people
Yeah.
interested in this. Had a question here. Let's see. Not only am I perimenopausal, I medically need a hysterectomy. I feel doomed, probably complete. Sorry about that. It was more of a comment. I thought there was a question there that came in.
I think I can address that really well, and I appreciate. I won't share your name because I don't know that you want me to share it, but the person who's asking is amazing, and you've been through so much, and I'm so happy to see you on here. But yeah, don't feel medically doomed, because even if you have to get the hysterectomy, there's obviously there's dangers, there's scar tissue, there's a void. And so your low back becomes a little more vulnerable, and you want to make sure you protect it, where some support after the hysterectomy. But this is really the most critical thing, is getting your adrenals healthy, because what we thought of originally is, once the ovaries shut down, then there's no more estrogen production and your hormones are just like, they're irrelevant, and that's what a lot of endocrinologists have told my patients over the years, like, well, you don't make any hormones. And that's just not true. But if your cortisol levels tend to be low across the board, then that's a danger zone. And that's where we really have to start working on the adrenal glands, because they pick up the slack. And the beautiful thing about your body is it has this resiliency like no one's business. And one of the peptide cycles that we have you on, you are in the right flow. One of the peptide cycles are the growth hormone releasing peptides like CJC and Tesamorelin. And I have you cycled on and off those at the appropriate rate so that you get the proper expression of estrogens, progesterone, pregnenolone, all those things. Pregnenolone is also really important for you to take if you've had a hysterectomy, or if you're perimenopausal or premenopausal, or postmenopausal, excuse me. So hopefully that helps, but don't feel doomed. We're working on it right now. So,
Awesome.
All right. So some other things, and this is, in your business, just by the way, is this is a really good time to go and pitch ideas and go and get some of those cool contacts in the fashion world, and really, it's your creative time with other people, create some collaboration. So it's a good time to call loved ones, take your daughters, granddaughters out to lunch or on a spa day. So a lot of cool things can happen in the ovulatory phase, including conception. So if you're working on fertility, yes, hopefully you're watching your rhythms, or if you're trying, we're using the natural method of conception, and you don't want to have babies at this time, and you don't want to conceive, well, this is a really good time to be super careful. So, all right, luteal phase. Luteal phase is really a work phase. This is where, it's just like, okay, let's get to work. Let's get things done. Now that you've had your creative mode and you've really got all these collaborations going, this is where, women, I've seen it in so many organizations where, the men are at the head, but it's actually the women who run the thing and they get the job done. So probably East West included.
Yes.
By far. So The luteal phase is when now that you've got the planning done, you've got, your creativity, you've really worked on that during the follicular phase. You have now you're ready to collaborate. You create all these good networks and these amazing relationships, and you're feeling energized. And now you go to work. And it's during these next 10 to 14 days in the luteal phase when your progesterone's at its highest, which means it's probably when you get your best sleep. It's a great time to add in more complex carbohydrates, more starches. I know carbohydrates have gotten a bad rap, but for you females, especially if you have low thyroid function, you need carbohydrates, and especially in the luteal phase, it's really important to get that maximum amount of carbohydrates. So really tracking your macros is a really important thing. And so this can be, if you're like, well, how many? Well, focus on protein first, and just think of your body weight and do approximately your body weight in a protein. If you're trying to put on muscle, then you can take your body weight and you can times it by 14. And that's how much protein you need. If you're just trying to maintain, then just take your body weight, times it by 12, and that will give you the exact amount of protein. And then if you're really, if you're trying to cut, you want to do your body weight times 12 in grams of protein. If you want to maintain, you do your body weight times 14. And then if you want to grow muscle and build mass, then it's your body weight times 16. So do you mind plugging that in the chat box, Shawnee, so everybody has that so you can see it? Did everyone catch that? So for protein, start there, and then we'll go into carbs. Go ahead, Cade.
So protein time. So let's say to cut, you're going to go times 10.
Times 12.
12.
Yep.
And then it's 14 to maintain, 16 to bulk.
Yep. Body weight times 16 is where you're going to put on muscle mass.
That's in grams.
That's
protein.
Grams. Yep. Yeah. So it gives you a nice reference, and then you can say, okay, start with your protein because it's so critical for all the hormones in your body. Because remember, the proteins are the transporters, and that's the building blocks. And some of the hardest cases I've ever had in my career are working with people who don't consume a lot of protein, especially animal proteins. It's very challenging to get the right macros there. So then you say, okay, and then with your fats, approximately 80 to 120 grams of fats is pretty darn good for most people. And then you want about 120 to 180 grams of carbohydrates. And then that can even go up to 200 grams in the luteal phase, which is so crazy for so many of us. But you'll notice during this 10 to 14 days when your progesterone is at its highest, you're going to be sleeping great. You're going to be recovering. And it's a really healthy process to go through for your thyroid hormones and all the reproductive hormones. So from a, overall, kind of work mode and learning mode, this is your get it done phase. It's for completion. It's for nurturing. It's for tending. It's when you're working on the big projects. Don't procrastinate, get organized. This is when you accomplish the projects and goals. This is where, Cade, if every female's cycles were exactly synchronized on the planet, that'd be amazing. Because in our Go Wellness events, this is when we'd have our events be on during the follicular phase.
Yes, we got to figure out how to get that going.
Yes.
I guess what that would require though is the whole world would have to be like in sync, or at least all of our clients. I don't know how that would happen.
It's not possible. We're on so many different time zones. Yeah, but this is when you feel good about wrapping things up. You attend to your home, your finances, your administrative tasks, you do your deep work. And then it's also a chance to just celebrate how powerful you are. So it can be really, really amazing. All right, now we'll go to the menstrual. So menstrual phase, this is interesting because, this is when you need to rest. And I know a lot of you push yourself every single day. And And society doesn't lend itself to taking rest days. And we really need to focus on this, especially during the menstrual phase, because it's a big release. And one of the things that can happen as you stop menstruating, and especially if you're on birth control that keeps you from menstruating, is you can end up with high levels of iron and hemochromatosis. And it's really dangerous because it causes a lot of oxidative stress in the body. And I've seen this in the metabolomics tests that we do. You'll see this high level of iron or total iron binding capacities elevated, and there's ferritin levels through the roof. And so you've got to be a little cautious about if you're not menstruating, especially if you're using birth control. And this is where detoxification is a really critical thing, and making sure you're metabolizing your hormones. That's one of the reasons we use Cellcore, because so many of our patients are, premenopausal or postmenopausal, so anyway, but in the menstrual phase, this is a great time to eat more meats. Paleo, it's a time to minimize your carbohydrates. And so, just like your body has cycles, you need your nutritional differences change. And so it's a good time to really get most of your calories from fats and proteins. And even keeping your carbohydrates down to like 30 to 80 grams a day is really important for this phase of your cycle. And so you'll notice that your hormone levels, your body temperature drops during this phase. It's a great time to take some hot baths at night. This is also when your estrogen levels are low, and your estrogen metabolism is not quite as needed. And so you want to stick to warming foods. And so this is based on, a lot of these are based on Chinese principles too. And so make sure you're cooking your vegetables, you're eating broths, soups, bone marrow, organ meats if you can. It's all a really good time to do this. All right. So what the best time to do as far as mentally goes is, it's a great time to have evaluation and intuition. So look back on your past month and say, man, what am I most proud of? And think about the accomplishments. Say, what have I accomplished over the last 30 days that I feel really good about? What am I super jazzed about right now? And then what am I most excited about in the next 90 days? And so it's a really good time to trust your instincts. Is your gut telling you something? Last night in our hack, we talked about essentialism and saying, so, what things do I need to get rid of? Are there people that I need to have new relationships with? What do I need to start changing in my life? And so it's a good time to journal. It's a good time to pull out your essentialism book and read that, and then set intentions. So great opportunities there. Okay, that's the 4 cycles. What do you think?
Really interesting. I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this like 4 or 5 different times to really get a full comprehension. But yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah. So a good time, like to just remind Sierra, like, oh, hey, you're menstruating. It'd be a great time. Why don't you just relax today? And let's, instead of going out and, doing all these activities, I'll take the kids and you stay home and, relax. And she'd probably really appreciate that, just giving her permission.
That is some really good insight.
Not that she needs your permission, but
now I just gotta figure out. Yes, love it. Had a question come in. Regan, do most menopausal women get stuck in one phase for the rest of our lives?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And if the adrenal glands, if the cortisol, the answer is yes and no. If cortisol gets completely flatlined or stuck in an elevated level, yes, you don't have the same rhythms, and it becomes super frustrating because your body always feels kind of tired and wired. And that can impact your thyroid hormones too. And we see it a lot. But if you have healthy adrenal expression, then you're going to do great. And you can still have these rhythms and cycles. They won't be as dramatic, but you'll still have those. And so, yeah, great question. All right. So here's some of the things you can think about doing, as far as how to work out during these phases. In the follicular phase, on Mondays is a good time to do like cardio dance. Let's say you're in your follicular phase, and on Tuesday this is the rebounding class. On Wednesday, dance. Thursday, jump rope. A class for just jump roping would be brutal. Friday, indoor cycling. Saturday, hiking. Sunday, rest. When you're in your ovulatory phase, good things to do are like kettlebells on Monday, high intensity interval trainings on Tuesday, indoor cycling Wednesday, Thursday boot camp, Friday kickboxing, Saturday power yoga, Sunday rest. And then in your luteal phase, this is where you can do high intensity interval trainings on Monday, Tuesday do some Pilates, Wednesday do weightlifting, Thursday Pilates, Friday bar class, Saturday yoga, and Sunday rest. You can see how things are getting slowly, that we're winding down the intensity. And then you get to the menstrual phase. Monday, Tuesday rest, Wednesday yin yoga, Thursday walking, Friday mat Pilates, Saturday walking, Sunday rest. And so you can mix this up as you like, but that gives you some examples of what to do. As far as like, love goes, there's different phases as far as, what you want to do in your relationships. So I think this is really important. And this is, I think, really helpful. But in the follicular phase, it's more of a novelty phase. So you've got about 7 to 10 days. So this is a good time to travel, go somewhere new, go to a show or a museum, try new sexual positions, get outside, do something physical together. Focus on foreplay, use lubricant, pay attention to the orgasmic plateau phase. In the ovulatory phase, like we talked about earlier, this is 3 to 4 days, but it's a good time to enjoy dinner with friends, go to a party, host a party, talk about sex fantasies, discuss your relationship goals. Or if you're dating, go on first dates, have multiple orgasms. So there's great things to do here. So Cade, taking notes on this?
Yeah, I'm just going to print this off.
Luteal phase is clarity. So 10 to 14 days. And by the way, talking about your relationship during the ovulatory phase, it's funny, it stays a lot more positive and proactive than if you try to do it like during the menstrual phase or the luteal phase. I can tell you, you'll get eaten up as a man. Just a little word to the wise. The luteal phase, clarity, duration, 10 to 14 days, do some domestic projects together. Another great time to evaluate your relationship, cook together, stay in for date night, ask what you can do to make the relationship better, enjoy quickies in the first half of this phase, enjoy more foreplay in the second half. And then the menstrual phase, this is recharge. So, 3 to 7 days, indulge in self-care, read a good book, watch your favorite movie, ask for a foot massage from your partner, spend quality time with yourself, always use lubricants. So yeah, hopefully that gives you guys some cool ideas. All right. So think about some energy blind spots. I would encourage you guys just start looking at your life. Do a review and say, okay, what kind of phases and energetic cycles do I want to go through? If your cycles aren't regulated, get your hormones tested. It's so critical to look at everything that's going on in your body, and hormones are so powerful. And I know there's, I found as far as hormone replacement therapy goes, we love using thyroid hormone when it's necessary. Some estradiol, some progesterone, testosterone. We tend to microdose testosterone or do super low dose for dudes and even females. But man, we've also seen that if you can get the right environment in the body, and it usually comes down to metabolizing the hormones is more important as we age than just putting new hormones in the body, and cleaning up the communication from a DNA perspective. And that's where, using epitalin, using gonadorelin, using kispectin, these are all peptides that regulate the HPA axis and reset the rhythms. And then using some of the growth hormone secretagogues like tesamorelin, CJC1295 with ipamorelin. These are amazing ways to supercharge things. And if you have a super low libido, or if you just want to really spice up your sex life, that's where we use PT141. And PT141, you can use it as an injection or a nasal spray. And it actually got FDA approval for hypoarousal disorder. And so it's actually been clinically studied. It's a very powerful peptide. Some of the side effects can include nausea if you use it, and it works similar to melanotan. Melanotan is another one of those peptides that you can use that tans your skin, and it helps with mold toxicity and resetting the melanocorticytes. So part of your gets you out of the cytokine storms, so part of your immune system. But PT141 can be really powerful. So part of these cycles, and one of the best ways you can metabolize cortisol, females, if your rhythms aren't set up, is orgasming. It's crying, you have a massive amount of cortisol in your tears, and then orgasms are a great way, along with exercising. So just hopefully this gives you some really important things to look at when it comes to your life. Try to map out your cycle phases, put in projects where you can do that, where they fit the rhythms. Think about non-negotiable deadlines and how they relate to your cycle phases. Get rid of those non-essential things and plan on self-care. Think about scheduling your team meetings, remind yourself what to focus on, and encourage your people in your life to do the same. So hopefully that was nice exploration. And for you men who are with us today, I really appreciate you guys being on, because life is all about harmony, and it's about understanding each other. And the root of communication is understanding. And so, hopefully we can have some intention to understand what's going on with females in our life, and we can plan things appropriately. And hopefully you guys got some goods out of this.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Regan. That was really incredible. I think everyone really enjoyed this. We're getting lots of great feedback. So thank you guys for joining us today. We'll be back same time, same place next week. I believe we got a cool guest that'll be joining us next week. So excited about that. And we'll see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.